Now, these guys may be on the highway to Hiffle. They might have been seen as engaging or deep, but are they really complex, deep villains, or just simplistic follies? Hey guys, MasakoX here. Dragon Ball, let's be quite clear about this, isn't a good example of complex storytelling. Neither is it something to really delve the depths of philosophy and get film experts thinking long into the night for decades to come, as they might do with something akin to Stanley Kubrick and the like. No. It is a show meant to appeal to comedy, action, as well as bright and colourful visuals, simple, good old-fashioned martial arts. So long as it appeals to those base emotions and gets the juices flowing, then that's what Toei, Toriyama, and now Toyotaro, this trio we refer to here as the Triple T, care about the most. Just to get us to sit down, shut up, buy some merch, and remain loyal to the franchise. When it comes to the bad guys, anime, as well as any other medium, can have really deep and thought-provoking moments with these characters, which are very complex and detailed, but also easy to spot. Simple enough to get yourself into thinking closer, but provide a lot of content and discussion for years to come with each revisit. There's always something to elaborate on and really pick apart another interpretation over years' separation. For Dragon Ball, we do have some moments like that, but for the most part, these villains are obstacles for Goku and friends to hit really hard before moving on to the next one, with new powers, transformations, the old transformations becoming completely junk, and new locations to find out, possibly, as well as lowering the stakes further and further, which is an unfortunate side effect of Dragon Ball. We've been talking a lot about villains lately, haven't we? But it's hard to deny that this monstrous bunch of baddies that we have gotten to know over the decades are quite honestly one of the most fun things about Dragon Ball, especially the Z portion of the story. While the original series of Dragon Ball and its collection of baddies were fun and entertaining, with King Piccolo paving the way for the ones that are the most beloved today, it would not be a stretch to say that the vast majority of our community would say that DBZ has the best bad guys within the franchise as a whole. Certainly the most iconic and memorable. Of course, if you are a devotee to the series, all the villains have a place in your heart to some extent. Maybe perhaps with the possible exception of Super 17, but that little confusing chestnut, that's for another video. Again, Dragon Ball Z had the best and most varied examples of bad guys within the whole universe of the Dragon World. It's not a very hard competition to win either, considering that Baby is the only decent evildoer that came from GT, and Super had only Zamasu as its original villain, a proper villain, so far of course. As much as we would like to count Goku Black into the mix with that, he was either seen as a copy of Zamasu, or at best, the second fiddle, the Ginyu to Zamasu's Frieza. And don't get us started on Super Dragon Ball heroes. Well, okay, I will say one thing for now. Hearts may be one of the most boring villains within the Dragon Ball sphere, but at least his motivation was somewhat reasonable, to try and topple Zeno and instill a much more fitting ruler, himself. Yeah, I kinda get where Hearts is going. Zeno isn't the most glowing example of the ruler of a multiverse. It was just a shame that Heroes chose not to focus on that motivation from the start when Hearts debuted, and we only really found that out before he became irrelevant and he was gone. That could have been a real highlight, and a source of peril, but I guess you can't have them all, I suppose. At this point, for us, Heroes will become another fake Namek or Garlic Jr. of our channel, which apparently you guys think is actually a real thing. And then there's Moro. If you don't know who Moro is, you really should catch up with the manga if you haven't. If you were looking for Dragon Ball Super to throw something deeper and unexpected in your direction, look no further than this Ram Man. We have made quite a few videos on this guy since his introduction, and for good reason. He is a very interesting villain who came about from the manga at a time where it had had a pretty rocky relationship with the fandom, and understandably so, mind you. Prior to the Moro, or more commonly known as the Galactic Prisoner arc, the manga had reached its lowest ebb in our opinion. Tournament arc which was clear that Toyotaro did not want to do, and he wanted to just rush through it as quickly as possible. A lot of the stuff that happened in the anime didn't happen here, and of course, the Roshi Jiren thing is just too perplexing or frustrating to contemplate right now, but in short, Toriyama's pupil didn't give it his all with that saga. And you want to know something really bad? Toyotaro really did my boy short, Kato Pessler. How dare he? When it comes to the Moro arc though, now we're getting somewhere. Ooh, we're talking now. As much as we can agree on the rocky composition in terms of his panels, that's a common fault with Toyotaro. Weird pacing at times between the main story beats, and certain character growths walked back for the sake of a quick gag. We're looking at you, Roshi. There is one particular grievance we have seen aimed towards Moro that we think Haverock and I is kind of weird. If we take a look back at his earlier interactions, we have often heard from the fandom of the manga that Moro has no complex motivation, and that he's simply gaining more and more power for the sake of it to then take over the universe. And that's it. You get some people in the fandom just looking down their glasses and just go, oh, with Moro, where's the nuance? Where's the detailed symbolism and hidden subtext? A pox on him! Now, okay, both Haverock and I agree with the first bit, the lack of complex motivation. That is completely true. If Moro were in a modern anime with deeper narratives and were more sanient in approach, he would be laughed off the stage as something so primitive and basic, and the design? How ludicrous. But the question we have for you here is, in the world of Dragon Ball, is he really that bad or simplistic? Do we really need villains that are overloaded with meaning and layers of personality and drive? Are we satisfied with just a guy who's strong and our heroes have to conquer? Well, we're going to get into that. Let's look through the past adventures of the show and really investigate why we believe, having seen the Moro arc heading towards its conclusion, that sometimes simple villains are the best for Dragon Ball in the long run. Admittedly, we've already addressed some of this stuff in previous videos, so we will try and keep some bits we cover short. We begin with the more gag-filled first series, Dragon Ball. The villains there, Pilaf, the Red Ribbon Army, King Piccolo, all wanted the same thing at the end of the day. It's one of the most standard desires in the world of the villain. It's your typical cartoon plot. We're going to take over the world! Yeah, really, they all had the same goal, only decorated and fashioned differently from one another. Their approaches were pretty different, of course. Their journeys encountered different obstacles and attractions, though. Pilaf was more of a comedic villain that you would see in a Saturday morning series, and not somebody to take seriously, and you would often ridicule for his daftness. King Piccolo's conquest, though, was the most serious of the bunch. And as for the Red Ribbon Army, they kind of danced between the two approaches. Sometimes they had serious moments like with Colonel Silver and to a lesser extent Major Metallitron, and then you got General Blue. Then we had the post-game boss, Piccolo Jr., who went from a villain to a rival antagonist type of character, arguably the most complex of the group. All these villains have their place within the DNA of the series, of course. Neither of us said anything about removing them or cheapening their legacy or deriding them, but what they wanted was pretty basic when you compare them to what the Dragon Ball Z collective had in mind. Next up we got Raddatz. He wanted to forcefully recruit his brother and convince him to join his side with his comparatively brutish power. Raddatz was many times stronger than Goku at the time, and that was just the beginning. After that, Vegeta and Nappa. They wanted the Dragon Balls so Vegeta could be immortal and defeat Frieza. Then Frieza wanted to be immortal. Then there was Dr. Gero, who wanted revenge on Son Goku. Again, that may be simple to you, but when you stop for a moment and get past the baggy trousers of the Madcap Doctor, if you consider all the supplemental materials, Dr. Gero might be the villain with the most complex motivation of anyone in Dragon Ball. After that, we have the androids who just want to have fun, and then Cell. We've already given him his own video, as well as exploring what he might do after he would hypothetically secure his victory in the Cell games, but to be fair, all Cell really wanted was perfection. What he wanted after that was pretty straightforward. Then there was Boo, who was, well, chaos, destruction. No personality. Boo had no motivation. He was just Toriyama ticking over and waiting for the time when his editor and producers from Toei could go, "It's okay, Mr. Toriyama, you can stop now." He was coasting along and doing what he wanted to do, which was reflective in Boo's impulsive nature. We were watching this creator slowly go mad. After Toriyama had indeed jumped ship and headed into effective semi-retirement, certainly jumping off the Dragon Ball train for the time being, we can then head towards the likes of Baby, who wanted to avenge the Tuffles. After the initial misstep of the adventure aspect, Baby's arrival signaled a return to form, sort of, and produced a villain who did have his moments. Then there were the Shadow Dragons, that was supposed to be a punishment aimed squarely at our dragon team for overusing the Dragon Balls. It's an excellent idea, what we've said many times, which soon fell into the stupid evil category. And finally, Zamasu, who we were supposed to sympathise with and yet also despise him at the same time. But his plan got way too convoluted at times. Then heroes with few and hearts. And all I can say about few is that his inspiring moments were few and far between. After what I've said to you, do you see a trend here from what we went through? The villains that we had the most fun with throughout the decades and times that we spent with the series directly are not the ones with the most complex motivations. But instead, it were the ones which had a simple drive and focus, and we could understand, get past meaning and pay attention to the pure action. Sure, it's fun to have characters with more motivation from time to time, but Zamasu, Hearts, and the Shadow Dragons could have been much better if they had more focus on their personalities and less on their, well, convoluted plans. Zamasu is still the best out of those three because at least he has some interesting quirks and he is quotable. You know, that gives us a soft spot. We actually don't forget him. But that being said, I still feel like writers for the series wanted to get all modern with his approach and have Zamasu speak justice and the meaning of it. What does it mean to be mortal? Are the deities here misguided? Is justice even real? Okay, that's all very well and good, but remember, this is a Sunday morning cartoon. Don't go too deep and nuts here, guys. Compare Zamasu's brooding nature with how bombastic Frieza and Cell are. Look how deliciously devious Vegeta is in the Saiyan saga. They are fun to look at and leave visuals which last the test of time and are paid homage to countless times in many different shows ever since. Now, where does this put our favourite Ram Man? As much as we like this character a lot, we will admit that Moro's personality is not all that stellar. It's quite straightforward. He does have a pretty unique design, yes, you're not going to forget it in a hurry, but his overall behaviour is your standard evil warlock type that you tend to see a lot in your typical MMO. Having said that though, he has a level of curiosity about him that the likes of Cell had, and his methods are pretty unorthodox, which I think make him unique. I mean, if anybody on first impression can scare Goku, that's a big deal. There are plenty times in the manga which make you go, oh dang, I didn't think of that. How are they going to get past this, what he did? So, you know how we said that we had gotten an incredible amount of fatigue after going through every incarnation of Majin Buu? It's because his abilities were pretty much the same, only slightly stronger with each iteration. Even with him changing form so often, looking different with each stage, his main gimmick remained constant. Turn people into sweets and stretch around like bubblegum. Like Buu, Moro's main gimmick has also remained constant. He has always been all about energy draining, planet scale, until he revealed actually that he can adapt to opponents such as Supreme Kai Buu, or even Ultra Instinct Son Goku. He doesn't mindlessly drain enemies till he bursts like Yakon like we were led to believe, but instead, he tries to find new ways to play his opponents. He is a little harder to read than we have previously been led to believe. Ultra Instinct Sign was a great weapon against a brute like Jiren, but Moro doesn't need to touch you to cause damage. That Ultra Instinct power isn't useless against him per se, but it isn't going to win against this goat magician. I think it's fun to have a villain who might have a singular, simplistic goal, but his methodology is very technical and adaptive at the same time, which in turn makes him a great opponent for Vegeta to go up against. Just saying. Vegeta also is pretty single-minded when it comes to getting stronger, but when we get to fighting, he tends to be much more thoughtful than Goku. Vegeta and Moro, they're really in sync when you think about it. When it comes to goals and aspirations, Moro is not the most complex villain there is. But after Zamasu and the stakeless Tournament of Power that failed to deliver Jiren's depth, having an entertaining bad guy that is simply, well, bad, actually seems like a good call. More complex villains in Dragon Balls can work, but they were never necessary to making the show a success. Sometimes we just want to see them cackle maniacally and twirl their evil figurative moustache. Really? If we just got that, that would be fine. So what do you guys think? Do you think Moro is a good villain for Dragon Ball? What sort of villain would you want to see after Moro to build upon? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!